Welcome to the Base Path Podcast, brought to you by New England Baseball Journal. I'm your host, Dan Guttenplan. American Legion Baseball is making a resurgence around New England, and today's guest is the manager of Shrewsbury Legion Post 397, Frank Vaccaro. Frank, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me, Dave.
Yeah, I wanted to talk to you about kind of the rise of Legion here in the last couple of years. I looked at your roster, and you've got some of the best players in the state of Massachusetts on that team. You had this year Braden Mercier, Andrew Schmidt. You had Jackson Lucciarelli, a lot of guys who kind of led that St. John's Shrewsbury team deep in the state tournament the last couple of years. How are you able to get these guys who usually end up playing, AAU or travel baseball in the summer to kind of stick it out with Legion?
Well, we're kind of relegated to Shrewsbury schools and any school that's close to our base school, which we use Shrewsbury High as our base school. So St. John's guys have an option of playing for me at 397 or their hometown. But I think what's drawn the young people is the bonding that's taken place over the past. This program's been pretty solid for the last 12 years. And prior to that, always the bridesmaid, never the bride. And in the last 12 years, we've been able to win, which draws people. Okay. And more importantly, we think baseball is a life foundation, not just teaching them how to play baseball, work them on baseball. Most of the guys that have joined us, either if they joined us for junior and senior year or senior and freshman year of college, wish they had played it their whole time, because the philosophy in Shrewsbury 397 is team. And AAU is great. I don't knock any programs that teach baseball or work with it, but it's more individualized. And this teaches them how to be team members, which is going to help them in life beyond just individual performance. An individual can carry a team, but not forever. And you need the whole team to win. And they become bonded. And a couple of schools getting together and bonding that were rivals is a real good thing. And we've been blessed. Three you mentioned is St. John's boys. Jackson Lucciarelli, we got him young. We got him as a freshman. He was playing AU, but, we kind of sold him on the fact of, if you're good, they're going to find you and will help you grow. And he's done phenomenal. And the other two guys are absolutely great players. So this year we actually got to try out Sunday. And so the big thing about us is we preach teamwork. We preach life factors that you'll take with you 20 years from now. And I got guys I've coached that are married with kids, coaching, and they say, "Hey, coach, remember when we did this and did that?" We've got to several World Series, hosting regionals, and continue to grow.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, it seems the whole culture of travel baseball or AAU, it seems like it's almost parents that are, afraid of their kids missing out on these opportunities to get recruited. So much of the recruiting happens now, outside of the college baseball season. So in the Northeast, that ends up being the summer and early fall. And, parents just seem to say, like, hey, all these kids that are committing D1 or playing AAU or travel baseball, I don't want my kid to miss out on that opportunity. But you've had hundreds of players matriculate through your program that have played college baseball. What is the recruiting like? How much do you do to kind of advocate for these guys to make sure they're getting every opportunity to play in college?
Well, a lot. But there's three things we tell our guys. Number one, what's your goal? Is your goal in education? Is your goal to play baseball? Is your goal to just have a good time? If you didn't have a good time in college, it's not going to work. Just stop playing. Okay. If your goal is to play Division I baseball, those are few and far between, those players. And the schools find them. The colleges, give them credit. They know what they want and what they look for. We work with the people and the parents and the young people to find a home where they can play. Education's number one. the chances of, and we've had it, people going to the majors or going to the minors for that matter, the percentages are slim. So you've got to really work at it. And our philosophy is play until you can't play anymore. But go where you can play. To say I sat on the D1 bench for 3 years, I'm not sure you accomplished the goal. And then you can't play again. So we try and match them up with college coaches that we know. And then we also own the Bravehearts, which is a future league college team. So we're able to place and work with hundreds of colleges across the country, literally. So that's a little advantage we have as a program to help young people go. The only people that don't play college baseball for us that are on our team are those that choose not to. By that, I mean they're going to a pie in the sky school where they're going to Clemson, where, good luck walking out to Clemson. It could happen, but, you're better playing club there or going to a school where you could play. That's the philosophy, and we work to get you there. There's nothing wrong with Division III baseball. The difference between D3 and D1 is D1 has 10 starting pitchers that are great. D3 may have 2 or 3, and then it falls off. But if you're going to play 4 years, what's your goal? At the end, if it's get a diploma to get a job, we got to find the school and the program that fits you best. So we work hard at that. We really do.
Yeah, and you mentioned, there's nothing wrong with D3. Now there's even more opportunities to move once you're at college from D3 to D1, or, you can move up to D2. The transferring now is just, it's so available. What do you make of that climate with guys transferring all over the place in college?
I think the portal is a challenge for college recruiting, because now you got a kid. So say you're recruiting a senior, or actually start recruiting as a junior to come to your school as a catcher. Then they look in the portal and 6 D1 catchers want to move to D2 or D3 because they're not playing.
Right.
Now a college coach there saying, well, wait a minute, I could get this young man to come to my school now. And now you've got a factor where you really got to know the coach and you really got to know where you're going. Most big schools get 3 or 4, I'll use catchers. They draft 3 or 4 catchers. They get them in there. And then they let them fight it out, and then they cut them. They move them off their scholarships. Unfortunately, it's become a business. And the nil money that you can get from being in the portal is interesting, too. And they're paying people to play college sports, not only baseball, basketball, for all of them. And some schools will not do that, but the big ones are doing it. So you may look at a team that has $100,000 worth of no money on the field in the portal, then teams got $2 million worth of it on the field, and then they're getting people to move from one college to another.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks the grass is greener, but now what happens is you can play 4 different schools at 4 different years and not have to wait. So
Right.
it makes it tough for the high school guys.
Yeah, one of the concerns I've heard with Legion, and I don't know, how much merit there is to this concern, because the costs of travel baseball are so expensive. You could pay $6,000 to $10,000 a year for one of these travel programs, and that doesn't even include the travel and the showcase tournaments down in Georgia and Florida. But the trade-off, from what I've heard from some parents is, you spend that money and then they invest it in the program, they invest in the coaches, and a lot of they have top-tier coaches. How does the coaching for Legion compare? If you're not, I would assume you're not able to pay coaches in Legion. Are you still able to draw pretty accomplished coaches?
So I have 7 coaches. Okay, that I'm the head coach. I have 7 coaches. I got the head coach of Fitchburg State. He's on my staff. Every player, every person that's on my staff have played college baseball and above, minor league baseball. And how do you get them? It's going to sound corny, for the love of the game. They don't do it for money. They do it because they love the game and they live vicariously through these young people to get them to another level. if you work hard at it, you get the best coaches. I'd put our coaching staff up against any college coaching staff for that matter. But, you know, don't think because you pay $6,000 a year or $5,000 a year getting a great coach. That is not true. Now, there are some great coaches in AAU. Some of my dear friends run AAU programs. But if you ask them of the 20 teams they have, how many are qualified, and I mean qualified coaches, they can't answer the question because it's a business. And, they don't pay them a lot of money, 5 to 6 to $10,000 a year. That means they're charging the parent to pay the coach. Then the B coach makes 3,000. It's like a high school program.
Yeah.
So basically, if the guy running an outside program is connected to colleges, he or she can help them develop. But honestly, I'd put my Legion team up against any AAU program at the same age group. In fact, one of the perks we have is if you're 17, do you want to play against those 17-year-olds and be a star in one pond? Or do you want to pitch against 19-year-old college kids and 18-year-old players, hit against them? That's going to make you a better player. So, not saying that it's a farce because some programs are tremendous, but I think you get a little, and parents want their kids to be stars.
Yeah.
And one of the things that these coaches don't do, and we do, is tell them the truth. And if they don't like hearing the truth about a player, they can move on. Because I'm not going to tell a kid he's a D1 player when I'm struggling to make him a D3 player. And it's not easy. It's not easy to play college baseball. And obviously, it's much harder to play minor league baseball and pro baseball, particularly with all the countries that come in now. All the Latin markets, they got great ball players. I mean, Japan is becoming, we got Shohei Ohtani. Who would have thought that a gentleman from Japan could control baseball in the U.S.? Well, he's doing it. So there's talent everywhere. And now the American players are up against that. It's not where before, well, it was a fluke. Got Ichiro going into the Hall of Fame. I mean, you've got just, they've got parents a wee bit snowballed.
Yeah.
When you got a 9-year-old kid that's paying $3,500 to play ball, and then the parent says, well, I paid my money, my Johnny should be playing. And you got to develop kids. We don't charge money. We run raffles. We get donations. I don't want someone to say to me, I paid $3,000 and Johnny sat the bench 15 games. If Johnny's sitting the bench, there's a reason. We don't sit him on the bench. We do get everybody in there, but it's a fact. As you get older, you're going to have to learn the lay of the land. Somebody's going to beat you. So work hard and beat them. And that's really American Legion Baseball. And it's coming back. Every year we try to get to the World Series. Our competition is good. There are a couple of teams that I really don't want to play, but I have to. But most of our competition, we go to tournaments. We play teams that are going to make us better. Period. Wins and losses are always important. Winning is important. But developing the attitude and the grind and the discipline to learn how to win is what American Legion Baseball is about.
Yeah. And what's the schedule like? I know a lot of these travel programs, the AAU programs, it's, you go travel somewhere for a 3-day weekend. You might play 5 or 6 games over the course of that weekend. What's the Legion schedule like? And where, how much are you traveling? Where are the games?
Okay. So the AAU schedule, because there's a couple of good teams. You're playing junk. So you want to build up your batting average and your stats, play. That's my philosophy. Hit 700 there. You won't hit 700 in American Legion with me because the competition's too heavy. A guy that hits 400 in the Legion for my team is a stud. Okay? The guy that hits 250 would hit 400 in some of these eight because You're winning 22-0. Look at the scores. They who wants to play baseball like that? So that's just me, and I'm biased, but I lived it all. But I do believe AU can be very useful in player development. So if you're individualized, it's good. If you're looking to fatten up your stats, it's good too. American Legion plays, we played this year 35 games in 47 days. So it means you got to have a deep pitching staff. It means you got to learn the grind of playing baseball every other day. You got to be committed. AAU, you're playing weekends. They practice sometimes. The thing they sell you on is their winter training. Well, you can have winter training. We do it. We don't do it 4 times a week, neither do they. It's just guys play basketball, guys play football, guys play lacrosse now. And I say play as much as you can until you decide which sport you want to be in when you grow up. And then narrow it down. Don't narrow it down when you're in the 7th grade, 8th grade, 5th grade. Insanity. So to me, playing the schedule we play, if you're hitting as good as you were at the beginning of the season at the end, that means you're working your game and getting better every day. Our job is to get you better. And when it's like a basketball game, when do you hit your foul shots? When your legs are tired. Can you hit the foul shot when your legs are tired? Can you swing the bat when your body's beat up? Can a catcher catch 2 games a week when his body's been beaten down for 20 games? The answer has to be yes if you're going to go play in college. And that's what we look at. And it's not about money. It's about developing the person to become not only a great player, and I'll say this again, but to learn life's lessons. Nothing is free. Pay the price. You'll succeed. And if you don't pay the price, you're not going to succeed. That's it. I always tell my players, show me someone that likes to lose, and I'll show you a loser. And that's it. Bottom line. So we play a lot. We push a lot. I push the team a lot. And there's some great programs in Legion that do the same thing. And those are the guys we want to play. I don't want to play the guy that plays 14 games in 5 weeks and they spot the same 2 pitchers for 6 weeks. What are you developing? Nothing. I want 10 pitches and I want to use them all.
Yeah.
And then teach them.
And what advice do you give these guys that say, like I want to be in front of coaches, college coaches, I'm talking about recruiters. What's the advice you would give there? Is it to go to camps at the school, or is it, do you ever go down to any of these bigger tournaments in Florida or Georgia, or like, what advice would you give there? Like, hey, I want to see some coaches in the stands, with velo guns, recording my pitching.
Well, that's another. These guys go down to Georgia and they pitch 6 innings in 3 weeks, 2 weeks. I've also had guys do videos. They're throwing 92 miles an hour in a video. This guy from college, he says, oh my God, I got to get this guy. Never went to a game, never saw him pitch, never spoke to the coach. So my advice is simple. Call the coaches, get yourself in front of a coach, send them the videos, send them the statistics, have them call me. Have them call my coaching staff. Have them call the high school coach. Push the button. 90% of recruiting is up to the player and the parent. It is not up to the AAU coach or the Legion coach. They can be big assets. So you got to use them. But a velo gun, come on, I'll give a velo gun every game. Somebody's out there with a velo gun. And they send it to, I got scouts all over the place. The Northeast gets gypped because they don't play the same warm weather that Florida and you. But you go there for 2 weeks, is that going to make you? I'm not sure. I had a kid, let's see, 2017, hadn't decided on college, pitching for me in the regionals. The Bryant coach is there. comes over and says, "Where's he going to school?" I said, "Honestly, he hasn't decided. He's a senior. He says, "Well, can I talk to him?" I said, "Absolutely." We go to the World Series. He pitches in the World Series. Bryant gives him a scholarship, a partial, because they came and watched him pitch. So you build those relationships. We tell, we've got relationships everywhere. Come on down. This kid's a prospect. So we will tell you that I've had college coaches in the stands this year. Come see guys when we tell them he's pitching, he's batting fourth, he's playing center field. This guy's a definite prospect. Okay. And then, of course, with the Futures League, which is wonderful in New England, we get to see firsthand where we can send them places to play ball. So it just a lot goes into it than just going to a camp and being noticed. Can you get noticed? Sure. But I'm going to tell you something, they'll notice you anyway. If you're pitching 92 miles an hour in a high school game, they'll be out there very quickly to find you. Or they'll send a scout to find you from their school because they have it all the time. So people miss that part. They think if I pay $3, $4, $5, $6, $8,000, it's a guarantee he's going D1. I had a young man that was only going D1. And I told his father, look, he's a good player. He doesn't break a pane of glass, okay? And his stuff is good, but he's not good enough for D1. Listen to me. He's got to go to D3 or a good D2 school because D2, D3 is pretty close. And guy didn't want to hear from me. Left the team. A year later, comes back. Says, Coach, I see it now. You're right. In the meantime, he probably spent $18,000 over the course of a year trying to get this kid somewhere where he couldn't even play. So, sometimes you got to be realistic. Just like in life, look at yourself and say, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing right? How do I get better? You may hit your pinnacle. You may hit the top point. You can't go any further. Okay. Sometimes I like to tell people there's a full glass. Put another drop in, it overflows. So if that's your level, then that's your level. If you can get better, reach for the stars. I want you to get better. I want major leaguers. I want guys to go to that next level. But if they don't, I want to say, I learned how to be a better person, how to treat people, how to build camaraderie, how to be a leader, how to grow, how to be a team member. That's what we do. And so I hope I answered your question. I got a little rant there, but just telling you the truth.
No, that's great. Hey, Frank, do you have a few minutes to hang in for our 3 up, 3 down segment? We got about 10 minutes left if you're up for that.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm going to introduce you to our producer, David Yaz.
Here we go with another edition of 3 Up, 3 Down.
3 up, 3 down.
Yes, 3 Up, 3 Down is a segment where we have 3 questions for both Dan and our guest. And Frank, you're our guest, so you get to go first. First question, pretty simple. What's the first baseball game you ever remember watching? And I suppose that could be in person or on TV. Your thoughts, Frank?
On TV, 1963. I was 5 years old, or 6 years old. And I watched Sandy Koufax pitch against the Yankees. I was born and raised in New York. And he told me a life's lesson about pitching. He just slaughtered the Yankees. First game I ever remember in my childhood, although he was getting older than it, was Mickey Mantle.
So you were a Yankee fan. You weren't rooting for the bums.
No, my father was.
Yep.
They left Brooklyn, and that broke his heart. But he was a diehard Dodger fan. So I remember watching it on television. Really couldn't afford to go to a game, to be honest about it. But yeah, that's what I remember.
My dad was an old Brooklyn Dodgers fan. He idolized Duke Snyder, and he used to tell me the stories of the heartbreak. But then they finally won one. So
and my dad, same thing. The Duke of Flatbush. Yep.
right.
Love it.
Dan, your thoughts? Probably wasn't in as far back as Frank's.
No. I was
Just
about the
guessing.
same age, though. It was 1986 World Series.
Oh, thanks a lot for bringing that up.
Mets and
the
Red Sox.
fan.
And I'm sure it wasn't the first game that I'd ever watched, because I remember sneaking down from my bedroom and sitting on the bottom step. We kind of had a stairwell where you could go to the bottom and then kind of turn your head and see the family room and the TV. And I snuck down, every night of that World Series after I got put to bed, just to try to watch it. So I didn't have the best view. And as it turned out, it wasn't a great World Series for the Red Sox, but that's the first memory I have of watching the games.
Well, another iconic series, that's for sure.
Yep.
All right, question number 2. Dan, you can go first on this one. What's
Okay.
the most iconic baseball record? I'm talking statistical record, anything, totals, single season records, streaks, anything. What's the most iconic baseball record?
Now I would probably say Joe DiMaggio's hit streak, because that was one that didn't get broken during the steroid era of baseball. It used to be like, 714 home runs for Babe Ruth or 61 for Roger Maris. But yeah, I think the hit streak, it's 56.
That's correct.
Yeah, so that kind of held on even through the steroid era. And I think that'll be, I don't know if that ever is going to get broken.
Pete Rose got to 44. And ironically, even if he had beaten it, it would have been stripped from him like the other record was, I guess.
Right.
Frank, how about you? What do you think baseball's most iconic record is?
Well, I have to agree with David.
No, it's
Dan, you're David. I
Green.
have to agree with Dan, because I don't think that record will ever get broken, because they don't play as hard. They don't play injured. They're a little bit more baby today because of all the money in baseball. And, the thing that about DiMaggio that blows my mind beyond it is nobody realizes that after he was stopped, and he was stopped by 2 tremendous plays by a third baseman, it's history as I read, he went on to hit 16 straight games after that. So if he had gotten one hit,
Yeah.
with a 73 game hitting streak, and Pete Rose might be the last living legend, even though he unfortunately passed and
Right.
is not in the Hall of Fame, that came close, and he still was 12 games off.
Right.
So I have to go with that also.
It's a great one. Although you with both of your logic, you could argue that Cal Ripken's streak of consecutive games would also never be broken. But
Yeah.
That was my second choice.
Oh, that was okay.
Because I don't think anybody's going to be as durable. And this guy, again, they played through injuries. They didn't take a day off. Today, I don't know. You'd have to pull a jersey off me if I was able to get on the field. But not today, man. They just don't.
I just looked it up. The current record for consecutive games for a current player is 746. Matt Olson of the Braves. It's more than I would have guessed.
Yeah.
Actually. Yeah. All right. Final question for a 3 up, 3 down. Frank, who's the player that you most in when you become an old man, Frank, years from now, what player will you brag about seeing having played? And maybe you've already answered it, but to young people, say, I'll want to tell you about the time I saw so and so play.
That's a good one, because I've had the privilege of saying a lot of players. I think because I'm a Yankee fan, I'm going to have to go with someone that may surprise you. And he's not a Hall of Famer, but I thought that Bobby Mercer, which was, I was a little kid, but I thought he played the game right, morning, noon, and night. And he's not going to be in many record books, and he's not, but I think that he overachieved with his ability. And I can name 100 other players that I love that were great from all teams. But he just stuck in my head as a guy that, he wanted to answer the bell. And I think what really iced it for me was when Thurman Munson tragically was killed in a plane crash. He came back for a funeral, and he played in that game, and he won the game.
Nice.
With homers and hits. And those were my memories of real players. So that probably Nobody will answer Bobby Mercer, but that's my answer.
That's a great. That's why it's a great answer. Did Mercer go on to coach after his playing days?
A little bit.
Yeah.
He was a Yankee true blue.
Yeah.
They traded him to the Cubs.
I remember that. Yeah.
And it broke everybody's heart, particularly mine. And then he got to come back the last part of his career. And, he was always a Yankee. A little bit of coaching, more announcing. He went to the
Oh, that's right.
announcing box and was up there and did a great job. Unfortunately, got ill and passed, but he is a good role model for young people.
Sure. Dan, how about you?
I'd say the smoothest player I've ever watched was Ken Griffey Jr. And then just the most dominant would be Barry Bonds. But, if you just look at his numbers, you could be like, what happened here where he's getting walked 200 times a year and still hitting 73 homer? Like he was so dominant. He definitely is the most dominant player I've ever seen. But I loved watching Ken Griffey Jr. He was just, he just played a great center field. He was so smooth in the batter's box. He could do everything.
Well, that's a good answer because he might, because you bring up Barry Bonds, and of course, anytime you get brought up, unfortunately, we think about the steroids just as much as we think about the record. Ken Griffey Jr. may have been the last great pre-steroid era player.
Yeah,
and and unfortunately for him, the evidence kind of bore that out. Still wonderful career, but towards the end of his career, you could tell he was broken down because he went all out,
yeah.
And I remember him at Fenway Park, watching him play in Fenway Park once, and there was a bloop to center, and you could see from the minute Griffey got his break that he was going to get there, and there probably wouldn't be able to. I was like, he's going to catch that, and sure enough, just lunging, diving catch, beautiful.
Yeah. Yep.
I'll tell you one thing though, quickly.
Yeah.
Because you said players that I've seen, and that's what I said. But I think who doesn't get enough credit is Babe Ruth, the first Shohei Ohtani, because he hit in a dead ball area. And, 714, as you said before, was a mark. If he were alive and hit in this era, he would have 1,000 home runs.
Possibly, but
the ball's juiced.
Not enough. But not enough credit, Frank. I watched the Ken Burns documentary. Half of it was Babe Ruth.
Well, I honestly forgot about Ken Burns' documentary. You're right.
But I hear what you're saying, though. Yeah.
60 homers, Lou Gehrig 47, the next guy in the league at 18. That's it.
And I don't think that's ever been done. That disparity, which is just incredible, and are obviously larger than life, and arguably baseball wouldn't have survived through that era without Babe Ruth. And
He was a fluke.
My late grandmother claims to have gone on a double date with Babe Ruth, but we never got the full story out of her. I'm going to investigate that. I'm sure it was fun, whatever it was. Well, you've both done very well in 3 Up, 3 Down. And back to you, Dan, to wrap things up.
Okay. Thanks to Frank Vaccaro for joining us on the Base Path podcast. Subscribe to the podcast on your preferred platform. You can also subscribe to our YouTube channel where we post all of our podcasts. Thanks to David Yaz, our producer. The Base Path podcast is a Siemens Media production.